introduce Rand Fishkin. Rand is the co-founder and CEO of SparkToro. Dedicated his professional life to helping people do better marketing through his blogging, videos, speaking, and his book Lost and Founder. Rand actually brought Moz through a period of growth in the last recession in 2008. You can actually Google a few posts from that time frame, such as why companies are investing in SEO during the economic downturn. And then I want to introduce also Will Reynolds, founder and vice president of innovation at Seer Interactive. So Will is a former teacher with a knack for advising. Will has helped Fortune 500 companies develop search strategies since 1999. More recently, leaning heavily into breaking down silos between SEO, PPC, and traditional marketing by leveraging big data integration. So you're going to see a lot of that in his presentation today. Will also brought Seer through a period of growth in the last recession in 2008. So these guys have been through this before. They've learned a ton, decades since the last downturn. And they're here to combine that experience with what they've learned over the past decade, actionable advice on how to approach your marketing during this time. So Rand, I will let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Erin. All right, I am going to share my presentation with everybody. And let's pop this into present mode. Yeah, so Erin, I appreciate the intro, and you're right. This is obviously a pretty terrifying economic time. So too was, we had a strange experience at Moz where we actually launched our big Linkscape product, which was like the first link index for SEOs, on the day Lehman Brothers collapsed in New York. And it was a very weird experience. I think it was the same day as the first SMX East. Strange times indeed. So I want to talk through how we can get a competitive edge and grow our businesses even in times of great stress. And I have done a lot of reading. What I want to do first off, as I'm sharing this with you, is express some empathy and understanding, because this is a terrifying, terrifying time. Will show you some numbers from his side, but I can tell you that SparkToro launched this last week, and we knew it was going to be rough, but it has been an incredibly slow start compared to how our early access went in February. You know, it's just night and day. So some data from Fortune, in case you haven't seen it, but right now, the reason I'm presenting this is because I want to give you the sense for how much of the economic pie has been affected by the COVID crisis and the fallout from it. So we're looking at about 26.5 million Americans without jobs, and you can see that that curve is slowing, right? The number of unemployment claims in 2020 is slowing, but we are certainly going to experience more before it drops down. And so we're anticipating somewhere between 20 and 25%. I think that's what most economists are looking at. That is a number we haven't seen since the Great Depression in 1929 in the 1930s. In terms of specific industries or broad sectors of the economy, retail sales are down quite significantly, but not quite as deep as job cuts as a total, and same is true of services businesses across different countries. I think what we hope for, right? What everyone hopes for is that our recovery will look something like what we see with China, where essentially you drop significantly, but a good portion of that, some healthy portion of that, is recoverable soon after economic restrictions lift. I think that the challenge is it takes a very long time for jobs to return and for investment to return in a lot of sectors. So Candor, which I think actually did some really superb content marketing through this downturn. Candor is a startup software company, but they started aggregating reports of technology businesses and whether they were freezing or laying off or still hiring. You can see that at the end of March here, based on a couple thousand reports from different from a couple thousand different companies. We're looking at, a bunch of folks who are more than 50%, all the way up to 90% in hiring freezes and layoffs. I pulled that data again yesterday, and you can see it actually looks a little healthier, right? The very top of this chart is in the 70s, and the middle is in the 40s, and there's plenty, several industries that are under 40%. But still, right, we're talking about tons and tons of industries where the overwhelming majority of businesses in those sectors are freezing their hiring entirely or doing layoffs in red, yellow, and green. So I would expect that when we look at this again at the end of May, at the end of June, the picture will keep improving. I think we're probably coming down from the worst portion of this. That being said, I don't want to mitigate any of this, and I'm not, I share the belief that both economically and health-wise, the right thing to do is to shut down the economy, to shut down our ability to go outside, because the longer we social distance, the flatter that curve gets, and the more time we buy ourselves for the healthcare industry to recover. I also think, and I don't know, a lot of sources that talk about this online, whether in the news or in Twitter, don't talk about the fundamental fact that if we opened up restrictions tomorrow, a significant portion of the population would still be too afraid to go outside and spend and buy. And so lifting economic restrictions, right, whether the governors all lift the stay-at-home orders or various counties and cities do, that won't make as much of a difference as people think it will, right? Some people will, yes, return to work, but a lot of people will say, no, I'm staying home. I'm going to keep ordering my groceries, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm not buying anything because I cannot risk getting this virus or infecting my family and friends, those kinds of things. So in terms of what we can expect, right, for our businesses and for the world as a whole, I think we can say, hey, economic activity is constrained, right? We're sort of looking at about a quarter of the US economy ground to a halt. But remember, that's temporary. So a quarter of the US economy for maybe 1 to 2 quarters of the year, and then probably less than that for, maybe Q4 of this year. And I think that the smartest economists that I've seen, the ones that I believe the most, think that the recovery is likely to have not the V shape or the U shape, but this tick-shaped, Nike swoosh shaped rebound. Essentially, we crash, and then we have a quick recovery of somewhere between 40, maybe 30% of the economic activity that's been lost. That happens relatively fast, and then it rebounds. The reason this is important is because if you are thinking about your marketing activity and spend, you need to plan for how this rebound will look so that you don't cut so deep that you miss out while your competitors expand and invest. So let's talk about that more specifically. Right? As marketers, we want to understand and estimate demand in kind of 3 periods, right? So we look at what did January and February look like for our businesses. We'll show you his for Sears. What happens in the near term, right? So maybe the next 6 to 9 months, say, March, April to about December, end of year. There will be a significant amount of demand lost. For many of us, there will be some demand growth as well. And that happens because as people shift their behavior, they shift investments, they shift their mindset. If you're in an industry that sort of benefits from quarantine restrictions, those kinds of things, there will be some demand growth. And then post-crisis demand will look different as well. So this is how I sort of think about it, which is I don't want to cut my marketing or advise anyone to cut my marketing by more than the demand that's lost. And so I need some way of estimating what that demand is, right? If I cut my marketing more than demand that's lost, I am in danger of losing out on opportunity. Things will look even worse for me than they look across the board. And likewise, I don't want to cut so deep that I remove the potential for growth during the near term or longer term periods. In this, really, really tough economic time, your organization probably falls into one of these three buckets, right? You're directly harmed. You're in travel like Expedia or events like South by Southwest or meetups. You're directly benefiting, right? Your Patreons, Whole Foods, Zoom, or you're indirectly affected, like Fitbit. Okay, well, people are sort of moving less, but maybe they care more about their activity at home, and there's some more home activity. All right, we're not sure where they land. Zencastr, they're looking at podcast consumption being down a bit because people aren't driving to work, but they're also looking at more podcasts starting because a lot of people are starting their own podcasts now that they have fancy recording equipment at home that they've purchased. SparkToro, I don't know whether we're directly harmed, we're sort of indirectly affected. And in these buckets, there's different things that we can do. So I pulled some examples here, right? The directly harmed folks have, generally speaking, I think that some of the smartest ones have been building brand awareness and investing in creating future demand. I'll actually show a few more examples in the travel space specifically, where folks are making investments for the future, predicting that pent-up demand will release at some point, and if they played their cards right and captured consumer interest, they'll have it in the future. You could be directly benefiting, in which case I think the absolute right thing to do is to be generous with that benefit, right? So I think, Patreon, I don't know if you've seen folks like Gumroad and Shopify. Shopify did this amazing thing where they created a huge fund for creators and small businesses up in Canada that they're investing almost like a mini government entity, right? Making not just loans, but grants. Patreon, the same thing here. Wonderstock, right? Helping other people because they are indirectly affected, and so they just look for ways to be helpful. And I think that's a great thing to do. That's what we're trying to do at SparkToro. I think that's what a lot of businesses that are doing. And I'll show you why this is true, this helping people over everything else. Not just that it's the right thing to do, but also that it is resonating out there. I think we can understand the scenario that we're going to be in three ways, right? There's sort of this March and April period where our attention is on nothing but, the disease and our health and worrying about family and all that kind of stuff. And I actually feel like even right now we're coming out of that a little bit. Some people are coming out of it at least. May 2022, I think probably next year, there'll be this transition to life online in a recession climate. Hopefully not a depression, but possibly too, right? And then from March or perhaps later onward, right, kind of a period when we are anticipating or getting a vaccine and things are returning to a new normal. That's that third period. So during this first wave, right, during these next, especially 30-ish days, what we've been seeing, right, is that obviously everyone uses the internet because the pandemic keeps us home. Businesses are cutting marketing to save money because it's an uncertain time. And then of course, traffic, conversions, sales fall, which sucks. And a big part of what sucks about this is that it's hard to reverse engineer whether it was our industry's demand fell and by how much, or we cut all our marketing and that's hurting us also. And so if you cut your marketing before you see the loss in demand, you really don't know. It's very hard to tell. If you cut it before you know what that tick-shaped curve is going to look like, right? The faster recovery over the next probably 90 to 150 days of recovery, then you won't know that either, right? You won't know whether that's you or demand. So there's this strange reality. There's more ad inventory at cheaper prices than ever. One of my favorite anecdotes about this, I had a call with a friend who does education. He's in the flight training world, like pilot training. And he's like, yeah. In January, we were paying $3 a click to, $3 a conversion for Facebook ads. This week, it's 12 cents. 12 cents. He's like, I feel really bad that we're doing so incredibly well, but it's just because we stuck with it when all the other advertisers pulled back. More online attention than ever before. You can see desktop use has risen for the first time in about 12 years, right? We're seeing desktop go up again and mobile actually drop, which is perhaps not shocking. Budgets are down, but they will rebound, right, at some point. And some sectors, products and services, are more wanted and needed than ever. So, a lot of businesses, most orgs are going to be scared and try to save money versus growing their business, right? Which is natural. It makes sense. Demand is down. You don't know how much, so you think, I need to save money. But some smart organizations are going to see opportunity and instead just focus on investing in profitable growth. They'll essentially not cut their marketing budget, but shift it to anywhere that is producing ROI. Sometimes that marketing budget will instead be funneled into innovation for serving the new kinds of demand that will exist. And there absolutely is still opportunity, right? This is that Shopify data looking at how e-commerce traffic and e-commerce conversions have grown across their platform. Tons and tons more merchants on their platform. They are now handling Black Friday level traffic every day. That's what Shopify says about its platform, which is just incredible. And as you can see from Matthew Ball, who's an investor, right, that there's just 3.5 to 1 performance per dollar, incredible ROI in the right sectors if you're still advertising. There's plenty of sectors that are seeing more growth. I don't know if you caught that Disney was projecting, Disney Plus, their Netflix-like competitor, where you can watch all the Avengers movies or what have you. Disney Plus has achieved 50 million subscribers in about 5 months. They were projecting 50 to 90 million subscribers 3 years from now, right? 4 years from now. That's wild. What happened? Well, everybody's stuck at home and they want to watch Disney movies, right? I think, what can we call it? The Mandalorian probably helped them too. Seemed like that got a lot of buzz. It's not just the United States. Ivano Biasi in Italy was sharing the food and recipe websites. I don't know how many of you have Italian relatives. My wife Geraldine is Italian. All her relatives are Italian. A lot of them are in Italy. Unfortunately, some of them got sick, but they don't like looking at recipes online. Like they're very against this until recently. Now, suddenly we're seeing an uptick, and you can see tons of categories if you're interested in more. I have that link to Stackline, and they monitor all these e-commerce categories. So you can see everything from, refrigerators are up 160%, packaged foods are up 400%, laundry supplies up 200%, power generators up 215%, deodorant up 100%. Deodorant, I realized the other day, I haven't put on, I put on deodorant every day, don't get me wrong, but I haven't put on any cologne in months. It's been a long time. And like we talked about earlier, pent up future demand, right? So I do think it's worth taking a look and questioning assumptions that you might have about how the future of the economy will be affected, because even cruise lines where a ton of illnesses happen, where there's just been terrible PR for that whole industry, right? And stock shorting, but cruise lines are saying, we're actually seeing increased booking, right? Cruise Compete saw a 40% increase in its bookings for 2020 over 2019. 76% of the people who canceled a cruise in 2020 have chosen to accept credit toward a future cruise, as opposed to only 24% who took a refund. Mind-blowing. So what this says, there was a great piece from, I think it was Skyscanner as well. You can check them out, but their CEO talked about how they had seen massive amounts of demand for the end of this year and next year. So pent-up demand for travel is going to release itself at some point. I think the way to think about this from a marketing perspective is shifting your dollars and effort from lower ROI to higher ROI tactics, right? How do I find places where I am wasting marketing dollars and put them towards places that can have return? So Seer has this great tool. This was in my presentation even prior to chatting with Will, called Saving Benjamins. Very Will Reynolds naming convention there. And the Saving Benjamins tool basically lets you see the words and phrases that you have in your paid search accounts that are very likely not the ones you intended to target, that are very likely costing you money but not bringing you returns. And of course, it's not only that you can cut potential spend there, it's also that you can improve your quality score, which means your ad will be shown for a lower price to more people, to more of the right people, right? And before you panic and cut spend, I would urge you to do an audit of your messaging and funnel. I think there's a lot of people who are not thinking about how their previous marketing, right, the marketing they'd set up for this year doesn't match the tone of the room right now. So I am literally in the R coronavirus subreddit, and the ad said, "You've got places to go, people to see." No, I don't. I promise you, I don't. Then there's the weird kissing coworkers from Vonage, which the social distancing message in the coronavirus subreddit doesn't make sense. And finally, look, Moz is my company. I actually did report this to them. I was like, hey gang, how about maybe we should fix this up? What do you think? Right, because I still have a stake there, so I'm on the board of directors, and they haven't fixed it yet, but hopefully they will soon. But this type of tone, right, it is not going to be the easiest reporting season you've ever seen. And so I think there's lots of ways to say exactly the same message that they want to convey in a way that is thoughtful and reads the room. I saw this one on LinkedIn yesterday, and it just really bothers me. There's a lot of this stuff in the sales world of like, oh, people are stuck at home, exploit them, sell to them, make money off them. I don't think that's the tone you're aiming for. I won't shame the company, but you get it. All right, wave 2. Let's talk about the transition to life online in a recession. So in this world, right, we're essentially going to have a shift in demand, right? People will have different things because they are stuck at home, different needs, different demands because they're stuck at home than when they were traveling and going to the office and commuting and all those kinds of things. And the behavior that they'll have will change as well. So I think about this in terms of 3 buckets. Demographics, right? There's an audience that demographically is more likely to be able to afford your product. Those are probably people who are higher income, who still have their income, who haven't lost their jobs, right? That's where more of the demand will sit in the economy for the next 6 to 9 months at least. There's psychographics in terms of like lifestyles and values, interests, attitudes, personality traits, and these may be shifting in many countries as well. Because of the stay-at-home orders, because of quarantine, because of how we view things like universal healthcare or universal basic income or the way we want to treat people around us, right? Those things can be changing. And then behavioral stuff, like where your audience goes online, what they search for, what platforms they use, the source of influence they pay attention to, product usage, all those kinds of things. And your job as a marketer is to figure out the audience that can and will still pay for what you provide. There are sort of 3 ways to get at this. This has been classically true, but it's certainly still true. And I think a lot of companies are paying attention to this. I've seen a ton of surveys and usage data analyses recently. So surveys basically allow you to ask a large group of people questions that don't go too far in depth. You know, this is good for light multiple choice. It's good for true or false. It's not great for getting depth. It is great for getting breadth. So you can ask people how they've been affected and how much, whether your customers are businesses or whether they are consumers, right? You can figure out who's hit harder, softer, and how, and you can figure out things people are switching to in their behaviors. You can also, I would absolutely anytime I do a survey, I want to do interviews as well, because I need that like color and depth and gradation of reality to make the survey, to put the survey data in context, and to help me understand that. And so I always urge folks who are trying to understand their audience, understand their customers' behavior, to also do a few in-depth interviews. That could just be a phone call, 5-minute, 10-minute phone call. What's changed in your life? Where are you struggling? Has our product helped you, and how? What are you doing differently with our products that you weren't before, right? Those types of questions are really superb. And for a lot of people, there will be answers that give you insight into what you can change and shift, and how you can shift your marketing messages to better reach people. And then you want usage data, like which referral sources are still performing for you, what content performs better versus worse now, what features or products are resulting in repeat purchases that potentially have changed. These things will almost certainly be different now than they were 3 months ago. So as attention goes online even more, my sort of roadmap for this is I need to figure out where they pay attention. I've got to discover those messages that resonate. I want to market in those places with those messages, and I want to do some experimentation. There has never been a better time to go ask your boss, your team, like, hey, especially if it's an organic, non-cost investment, it's a time investment. Hey, I want to try this thing. Can we see if this works? And for some reason, crises bring out the experimental nature of leadership, right? They're willing to try things that they weren't before. So let's talk about that first bit. Audience intelligence is this idea that like we can figure out where to reach our potential customers. Quick pro tip, I shared this on Twitter the other day, but LinkedIn has this great data where you can see all this stuff about the audience that's consuming content on there. Even more pro tip, if you see content that's shared by someone on LinkedIn, ask them for a screenshot of this. Almost no one will turn you down because they're like, oh, sure, it's free. I just clicked it and then I click show more and I send it to you. No problem, whatever, happy to share. And then you can plug that data in, right? So a tough to reach audience, like where can I reach hospital administrators and healthcare administrators right now? What have they been paying attention to the last 90 days? Well, you know, not to toot my own horn, but like this is one of the things that SparkToro, tools like SparkToro help you with. We don't have a lot of competitors that I'm aware of, but maybe there's another tool called Helix.ai. If you're using that, you could try it in there. The stuff that is working right now, especially in this first phase, like these 60 days, it has been crisis aware at least, and oftentimes truly supportive content. Ross Simmons shared this data from Foundation Labs, who looked across 2,000 blog posts on 32 different software as a service brands and was seeing what's resonating, what's getting amplification and links. And it does tend to be stuff that announced relief, support, help for other people. I think this storytelling works best, this aspect works best when it leverages emotions to change behavior. And that's how marketing and storytelling work really well together. There was this terrific ad that I saw, and it felt very in the moment, even though this is from 2012, I believe, in Thailand. And it has these 2 child actors walking up to adult smokers in the street and asking them, can I get a light? And the smokers, of course, say no. And they tell the kids, like, smoking's bad for you. And the kids reply, well, if smoking's so bad for me, then why are you smoking? And the message is like, okay, you're worrying about me, but why not yourself? And because it tapped into this cultural norm around elders supposedly being people who are supposed to represent correct behavior to the youth, it worked incredibly well, right? The video's viewership was very high, and the calls to the hotline and the reduction in smoking was much greater than any other previous campaign. And the successful campaigns that I see do a great job of this storytelling and emotional aspect, I think, especially right now because we're in this crisis. But they also don't just talk about what customers care about, right? I think there's overly too much focus on this in the content world. And we have to also think about what influential publications and people that your customers listen to care about. If you can find content at the intersection of these, stories at the intersection of these, this is where you have truly high potential reach. So a friend of mine, Mara Sabeta, out of Portland, runs this, this great little company called Switchboard, small tech startup, a little bigger than SparkToro, but it sort of gives businesses the opportunity to build their own messaging boards where they can answer things. And they built one for the city of Portland, small businesses, to all connect with each other, ask what they need, offer what they have. And Mara was posting about it the other day and said, like, this has been one of the most successful things we've ever done because it tapped into the mindset of what people needed right now. I need these things. I'm feeling a loss. You might look at this and think, oh, well, why aren't they going to Craigslist? And obviously there's, you know, this has some nicer features and that kind of stuff and a better UI, but I think tapping into something at the moment, at the time of need is incredibly powerful. And it's also what amplifiers want to share. So it does well in press and all those kinds of things. It's my opinion that there has never been a better time to experiment with your marketing, with your product, with your innovation. I saw Glowforge, which is a local Seattle company. They make a 3D laser cutter. It's essentially for folks who do crafts and have Etsy shops, and all sorts of people use it. But they recognized that one of the things they could create was these ear savers for personal protective equipment for healthcare workers. And so they launched this huge campaign to see if there was demand out there. And they ended up producing themselves in-house hundreds of thousands of these, and millions of more have been requested. But the cool part is they involve their customers, right? If you own a Glowforge, they've sent you a message saying, hey, you now have the ability to print more than 1,000 ear savers each day, and we will tell you where to send them, and we'll pay for the postage. And if you need ear savers, because you're working the front lines, we will get them to you from our customers and our products. It's incredibly cool. Speaking of creative marketing. So I think that a ton of the most innovative and high stakes marketing happens in the happens in the world of politics. And you can see this very weird thing, very, very creative, where the Biden campaign has sort of tapped into this idea that people kind of want to vote for a generic candidate. Like, I'm not really interested in a person, I just want a generic candidate. And so their strategy has been become largely invisible. Like, don't be seen. And obviously Biden can't really, go out, but he's also retreated from a lot of media. And as a result, you can see that the less he's mentioned, the more he wins in the polls. So this is a Fox News poll, generally very favorable. For those of you not in the United States, Fox News is sort of a Republican-leaning media outlet. And so typically the incumbent Trump does better, but you're not doing so well. Very innovative, very weird and surprising kind of political marketing strategy. Never been tried before, super experimental, clearly having an effectiveness. For folks who are saying, oh, well, I feel like I can't talk about anything but COVID, I thought the Ben & Jerry's campaign was brilliant on 420. For those of you who don't know, there's sort of a cultural attachment to 420 having a cannabis marijuana association that goes back, I think, to the 1960s in the United States. And Ben & Jerry's ran this sort of social justice campaign around marijuana. They're an ice cream company, but they, despite that, they want to help the ACLU support discrepancies between racial injustice for marijuana-related offenses. And this campaign was extraordinarily successful. I think it also helped Ben & Jerry's tap into a market, a demographic market that they have historically not performed as well with, right? Because they're sort of seen as this like white Vermont brand. Well, there you go. Darren Shaw from Whitespark in the B2B software as a service space launched this very innovative product, which is essentially a Yext replacement. He saw tons of small businesses saying, I can't afford the annual cost of Yext, so they're going to offer it cheaper with a non-recurring subscription, and they call it exactly the thing, right? They're narratively telling the story just in the title of the product, right? So your opportunities to change with the times are product, launching new things to serve new needs, pricing, offering more for free or extended payments or low cost versions or a prepayment discount, positioning, right? Highlighting your product as a solution to a different, newly relevant type of problem, or tactics, right? Changing your marketing, where you're doing your marketing, how you're doing your marketing, what you're trying to accomplish with it, the channel balance, all those kinds of things. I think before we start killing marketing budgets, we better exhaust these opportunities, right? We better go invest in these places before we just cut entirely, because we don't know whether we could preserve demand, preserve jobs, grow our market share, be more competitive on the other side of this. I'm not going to talk too much about the new normal because I don't think any of us really know what's going to happen. And I don't want to try and pretend that I know what's going to happen. I know that a lot of my days are like this, but that slowly I am coming out of it, right? That I'm coming out of this haze and feeling more productive and more able to work as this becomes more normal, right? As this quarantine becomes more normal. By the way, Liz and Molly, speaking of people who changed up their marketing for this event, just remarkable. One of the best things that you can do, absolutely, not according to me, but according to science, is help other people out. If you are feeling anxious and overwhelmed by what we're experiencing and by the long-term future of this, one of the best ways to calm yourself and center yourself and be more productive yourself is to help other people. I love these studies that say people who helped others with their homework actually had more energy to do their own homework, not less. It's not like this thing that you spend and then it's gone. When you are helpful to others, you energize yourself. I can't think of a better time to put that to work. All right, everyone, stay safe, stay home, wash your hands. We're gonna get through this together. I'm excited to see what Will has to say. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Rand. So we'll kick it over to you, Will. And for all the attendees, if you have questions while the events are going on, while the presentations are going on, feel free to drop them in the Q&A, which is if you kind of scroll over the bottom, it'll pop up with the Q&A, and we can just collect those for the end. We'll be doing about a 20-minute Q&A session at the end. All right, Will, throwing it over to you.
All righty, let's rock and roll. Thank you, Rand. All right, let's do this. Let me share my screen. And there we go. Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Truer words have never been spoken, Mike. All right, there we go. So this is what my punch in the mouth looks like. January, sales, million. February, sales, 1.3 million. March, oh my God, $1 million gone. Yep, and we're on our way coming back. But I share this and share Sears numbers to be like, I'm in the same boat as all y'all, right? You know, this shit's a little scary. And you're like, all right, well, I'm gonna figure a way out of this, is kind of my approach. And I know you're probably sick of me talking about data, but that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to ground you in a few things today. The first is the data flywheel. Thank you, Crystal, for sharing this with me. Get used to seeing this. Get used to me talking about this. I am not a Mark Zuckerberg fan at all. I'm not really even a Facebook fan at all. But to Rand's point, now is the time to try new things. You will be given the umbrella very often in the protection and the coverage to try some of those new things. I'm going to talk about macro data, micro data, and merged data as well to try to give you a feel for what it actually feels like when your data is brought together to help you make better decisions. So let's go. All right, merge data can make me and you better managers. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that. On any given day, I can go into Bamboo and see how many people are not working that day, right? Simple, easy enough. Hold on. Micro data. Okay, I can see the individual people that are out that day, right? But I don't spend my whole day in Bamboo. Let me see if that helps. There we go. The problem is I spend all day in email. Let me just check the chat real quick to make sure that I'm still good. All right, cool. All right, perfect. So when you spend all day in your inbox, you're like, well, I have a calendar. Yes, I have my inbox. Yes, and I have this tool over here that's telling me whether or not people are out. And if I want to be a good manager, well, I don't want to email people when they're out. So, come on. There we go. Google's got a solution. Yeah, good luck getting me to not use Gmail once this feature came out. The fact that my macro data is that people are out sits in one tool. My micro data, who's actually out that day, sits in that same tool. But I don't have that tool open all the time when I'm in the tool that I use the most, which is email. This helps me to be a better manager by knowing somebody's out of the office and when they're going to be back. I can delay my email send, let them enjoy their vacation. That's what merged data feels like across two silos. I wasn't going around asking for that solution, but man, the day it showed up, I went, this is the best thing ever. As Rand talked about those directly harmed, I want to kind of start there in those businesses. And I thought of, automobile purchases. Pretty difficult right now to go up to your local Mercedes dealer or whomever and decide to purchase a vehicle right now. It's difficult. So if you're kind of on the bench, so to speak, now's the time to use the time that you have to build your data flywheel. It's taken me 3.5 years to build ours, but those things are paying dividends right now, and you'll see why. You see how BMW, if you search for BMW SUV, that's what I'm looking for. Google already knows the names of all the BMW SUVs. They've got it all broken out, and they are absolutely correct. So this is what Google knows. Look at what the marketer shows. How is it possible that we can spend millions of dollars on ads and not just look up 2 pixels and see that Google's telling us what the right answers look like? There's not a mention of an SUV or an SUV model anywhere here. And these kinds of ads result in clicks, back buttons, more clicks on your paid ads, back buttons, more clicks on your paid ads. But then if I search for Cadillac and SUV, again, Google completely knows. But look at what the marketer shows. XT4, XT5, Escalade, XT6 SUV, Cadillac SUVs. This, my friends, is marketers paying attention to the signals that Google's already giving us based on what they understand about customers. And I will tell you, if you get a chance to go to Cadillac Live, do it. Not all at once, but do it. Their CMO made a bet, and I saw her at a conference a while back, and she made a bet that more and more people kind of don't have time to come into showrooms. So therefore, she made a virtual showroom. She armed 7, 8 people with headsets, iPhones, and these little handheld camera holders, and they walk around a studio talking to you in real time. Now, they can't see you, they can only hear your voice, but you can literally ask this guy to put 2 strollers in the trunk of one type of car so you can see how much space is left. You can ask them to get their coworkers to sit inside the car based on their height. Oh, you know what? I'm kind of tall. Can you get somebody that's over 6 feet tall to sit inside of the vehicle for me? And this was all done the end of last year for Cadillac. And then they'll just walk around from SUV to SUV, moving strollers and golf clubs and getting people to sit in and out of these different seats so you can get a feel. They'll show you exactly how to change the temperature so you can get a feel for how the informatics work. This thing is amazing, and you can better believe right now, not only is Cadillac's marketing from a search standpoint correct, they're going to get a lot more out of it because right now They have a way to make the experience of buying a car more real than anyone else online does right now that I know of. Man, that was a bet that paid off. Now, as we start having states coming online, for those of you that sell locally, watch the data from those states. Bid aggressively in those states. Why? Because all those cheap clicks that Rand talked about, they're intelligence for your larger state rollouts that are going to cost you more money. I want you to be thinking, all right, if I'm in a state that's opening up in X, Y, or Z areas, let me try a lot of different things right now. Shouldn't I test 4 or 5 different messages now so that by the time I finally go out of Georgia, who's opening certain things up, to movie theaters maybe someday opening up in New York City, don't you want to already have figured out how you need to talk to your customer and what resonates best? Much as I'm not a fan of the approach, theaters are open today in Georgia. I'm not a fan of the approach, but how would I be more effective for a client who was in that space right now? I would look at Google Trends. I search for the word movie theater and I can see the trend over the last 7 days. And I can see, okay, there's an uptick here, starting to move up. But what I really like is the rising searches. So now with this, typically movie, what are the things you think of? Georgia shelter in place order is not what I think of when I think of going to watch The Mandalorian. It's really important to use tools like Google Trends at the today, 7 days, 1 week, 90 days, etc. level, because you'll start to understand these related queries, which might help you get in the minds of your searcher a bit more. Because the first customer to show up in Georgia today at a movie theater, I don't think things are going to be the same way they always were before. But really, as marketers, the more intel you can get on what they were searching before they show up, the more empathetic you can be to the concerns of the customer, which is just good business. So again, like I said earlier, increasing your branded PPC budgets in a state that's just starting to come on board, it's a smart idea because you can get all the different words around your brand that people are using to better understand what their concerns are. If you're a site where people use a lot of site search, slice Georgia out separately, see what it looks like, see how those folks are responding to things. Or if you're able to, survey people specifically in those early states, because it's only going to help you to build a playbook for later. And I hope to God there's not a second wave, but the science says that there's a chance there might be. And at that time, I want to already have a playbook built. I don't want to be building my playbook like I am for the first time now. I already want to have one built. I'm going to leave this quote with all of you for a quick second, because a lot of the things I'm going to start to show you are things that you're probably not doing. There are things I've been presenting for 3 years, but you're probably not doing them. Don't sweat it. Neither is anybody else. So start today. Start tomorrow. So I'm going to talk a little bit about engrams. We're all pretty good at the Googles. This is what they are. A unigram, I don't mean to get too technical here, is each piece of each word. And you can see this is different than is, a sentence, 4 unigrams. Bigrams is this is a sentence, etc., etc., etc. And I'm going to show you in a real quick second why this matters. FDIC. The last time the FDIC saw a spike, which was much bigger than this one, 2008. Why? Because when these kinds of things happen and markets crash, people get worried about the security of their money. So now, if you've missed this spike and you're a bank, that's okay. If there's ever a second wave, now you know that for a week or two, when these things happen, keep an eye on the fact that maybe your messaging should be more about the security of people's money than how high your rates are for that week or two while they are searching. This is what is on their minds. One of my favorite things to do is to take all those search terms, those millions of search terms that we have, and break them into individual singular engrams. And what we did for one of our clients is we took all the words pre-COVID and post-COVID, and we can see which types of pieces of words are moving up and which ones are moving down. This is telling me how the language of their customers are changing over time. The people that are going to be their customers are more concerned about X, Y, and Z and less concerned about A, B, and C. This can help us change our messaging in email, in billboards, outdoor, TV, social, you name it. We're using search data for what search data is great for. We share stuff in Google search that we don't want people to know about us. It is a great place to truly get what is on people's minds. And for me, we're in the middle of trying to build this out in a way that scales globally to every client. Once you build it once, the beauty of the data flywheel is you can keep it kind of moving. So if you're in a standstill right now, just get started moving on your flywheel. So one of the things about the flywheel that I don't love is this concept of more data equals better decisions. Bull. One, I have found that more data only leads to better decisions if people actually want to believe the data. If you don't want to believe the data, then you're probably not going to make better decisions. But there's also another thing here that's a massive roadblock. We as marketers don't need more data. Now, this is coming from a big data guy. But the problem is our data comes into us with so much and so fast that we don't even know what to do with it because we're overwhelmed by it. So what do we end up with? Analytics data comes in and we make better analytics decisions. PPC data comes in and we make better PPC decisions. But ultimately, when we go to build a cohesive messaging and a cohesive approach to work with our customers and our potential customers, we end up with these hyper optimized freaking silos. I prefer to look at each one of those silos as where do they give me unique data that I can't get somewhere else? And then how do I join that to the other pieces of data to help me make better decisions off of rapid hypothesis testing? So in analytics, would I ever go into analytics for keyword data? Nah. I'm going to go through AdWords to get that. But I can get multiple goals. I can get like scoring for folks. I can get scroll depth. I can get bounce rates. I can get how many people started to fill out a form and then abandoned it. If all that's in analytics and I can join that to my SEO data, my PPC data, my social data, well, now I've got something very unique that isn't just within the silo. And this thing becomes nothing more than speed. Once you build it, things happen very, very quickly. Let me give you a real example. We knew our clients were going to be asked very tough budget questions. They were going to be marched into CFOs and controllers' offices and being asked, where do we have to make cuts? And left and right, you can see across the web where somebody's paying for a word, the same word, that they have an organic ranking for. And sometimes they're paying to be in the top spot and they're ranking in position 4 or 5. And other times they're paying to be in the top spot and they're ranking number 1. And these have to have different outcomes. So what we did is we basically said, all right, here's the framework we want to apply to our data. If a client ranks in the top 3 and they're paying for that click, maybe if we've got to shut something down for right now, they have a chance of still getting the click in some capacity because they are paying for those clicks when they already own some of that major high value real estate. And then we came up with another tranche of keywords. Where does a client on average rank between 5 and 10? And if you're between 5 and 10, maybe, just maybe, we could actually do some harder work on pushing those 5 to 10s up further, get them in a position where we can then cut them later. So then what we ended up with are tranches of percentages of our clients' spend that when they walked into the CFO's office, and she says, hey, I need to make some cuts. I need you to cut 10%. Well, they were smarter about where to make those cuts. Within 2 days, we had analyzed pretty much every client. And within 4 days, each client got a personalized video of exactly how we walked them through that because all the data was structured to enable our data flywheel to not have to go, well, we believe X. We went right to the data and gave clients very specific answers. And this is how easy it is. And what makes this easy, data engineering makes it easy. So we said, hey, where does a client rank between 1 and 3 for words where they have gotten a conversion throughout the course of the last 12 months? And as you can see, 20.56% of all the spend that we managed were on keywords that were in this kind of cohort. And as you can see on the left-hand side, it's all blurred out, but I do have all my individual clients. So I can see the top client spent 59% of all their spend came on keywords where this was the case. So if their CFO comes to them and she says, hey, I need you to cut 40%, I'm like, you're golden. However, all the way at the bottom, you might see someone else that's at 13%. And if their CFO comes in and she says, you got to cut 40%, well, they got a lot more work to do because they don't have enough organic visibility to try to get the traffic to continue to flow through. And this is the power of the data flywheel. Bringing that SEO and PPC data together and merging it moves you from this, cut all the freaking spend, to like, I know where to cut. I'm ready for it. Because the second guy has this, and all that data is instantly sliceable by every hypothesis you have. If someone says, you know what, Will, I don't believe it's 1 through 5. I believe it's 4 through 6 is my sweet spot. Great, we can just slice, done. You get that back. Now what I want to help you to do is to do some of this for yourselves. Once you've seen this, it is really hard, my friends, to not think, well, why doesn't everything else just work like that? And I'm going to show something I've been showing for a good year and a half, but I think it matters more now than ever as people are getting their teams removed, their content budgets potentially cut, or budgets increased, but they may actually need to figure out what's the best way to spend that budget. So when you combine your SEO data and your PPC data, we took every search term for this client, 266,000 search terms they showed up for in the last month or the last year. And we said, let's pull the top 20 for each one of those 266,000 words. And then let's strip out all the unique domains that are showing up. We ended up with 188,000 unique domains across 877,000 unique URLs. And then I built a scatter plot. And basically I can see that each bubble here is a domain. But what's most important is the axes. So you can see that my x-axis is how many unique pages have they built. See that bubble there all the way in the bottom right? Those folks write a lot of content, but they are the complete wrong people to follow. Why? Because my y-axis is conversions. So now I'm looking at which domain in the top left, right? Top left, right? The ones in the top left have written the least content, but their content is showing up for the keywords that convert the most for me. So if I'm going to model anyone's content to rip off, compete with, copy and compete, I want to look at the people in the top left, not because they produce a ton of content, because they can produce very little and actually rank for keywords that I care about. And now we just go back to the slicers, slice, slice. Show me where my client ranks between 11 and unranked, and where the competitor ranks in the top 5. Top 10 is not good enough. Well, now I have 50,000 competitors I'm looking at and 213,000 pieces of content. And then I just start picking on domains that are all the way over to that y-axis, almost on the line. And now I can find how much was spent on those words in paid, how many words there are ranking for those pages, and now I know the content that I need to produce. If you're in growth mode or investing mode, there's a different way to look at this information. I think that you can use PPC and SEO data together to improve customer experiences and drop those CPCs. Think of the word joint checking account. Seriously, stop and think about it. What do you think that person wants? Let's show you what they get. I search for the word joint checking account. Citibank, ranking in the top position. Sweet, I click on it. Joint, well, I thought joint, I was assuming that it was about 2 people opening a bank account, not 1 person. And then I engram that page and I see the word joint's not mentioned on that page at all. Interesting. Then I clicked on the second result, Citizens Bank. No people on this page, nothing on this page about joint accounts, 0. Then I went to Fulton Bank. No mention of the word joint on their page. And all these people are paying 15, 20 bucks each click, and this word is searched for thousands of times a month. And then I searched, and then I clicked on 3 more, nothing, nothing, nothing. Nothing said to me, hey, we understand that you're looking for a joint account. This is what happens when you live in the macro. You make a checking account keyword in Google and you let Google match it to all the different words. And overall, you're converting enough to continue to pay for this waste. So while smart bidding and those kinds of things work great, You're also sometimes overpaying for things or driving customers to things that you don't actually do. But let me show you what it's like to be a company in the micro. Simple. Simple has shared checking accounts. Notice these two lovely, happy people. Look at the subheadlines. Share what makes sense. Ah. Now, they're not using the word joint either, in all fairness. They call them shared accounts, which I would talk to them about if I were them. But share what makes sense. Look at the photo in the bottom right, two people. Keep what makes sense. Yours, mine, ours. They fully understand how this customer's thinking and they're in the mindset of that customer. Dream bigger together. Save faster together. This is 1 out of 8 PPC ads and landing pages, which means 7 out of 8 completely miss the mark on who it is they're talking to because they do not analyze the individual engrams of the words that people are using around checking accounts. And it's that simple. You know what's sad? This quote is the saddest quote, not because it was ever said. It's because it's 130 years old, and I just showed that 7 out of 8 of the paid ads for joint checking account completely missed the mark today. In spite of all the tools that we have that John Wanamaker did not have, we are still in the same freaking boat, if not worse. So we got to start using search data to improve customer experiences. Looking at these people also asks at scale is a great way to do that. Looking at the snippets that Google shows, whiskey glasses, okay, completely different than whiskey glass. Google gets more intelligence than anyone else on what people probably want. So if you're bidding and trying to sell whiskey glasses and you never combine the PPC and SEO data to know that whiskey glasses is a song now, and you might be getting clicks on that, then you're wasting more of your budget. At this time, we know that people are concerned about their safety. So we said, well, let's take 1.6 million keywords and let's take all the questions off of those pages. And let's drop in the word safe. So we can try to write more empathetic copy for our clients and see where does Google believe that a keyword, a good question for that keyword includes the word safe. And you can see across those millions of keywords, 30,000 of them had the word safe as one of the questions and the people also ask. And then I can look at all those individual questions, see the CPA impact, and count up how many different search terms are showing up for that client, where people are concerned about their safety, and does it affect my CPA? When it comes time to write content, something else that we think is really important is there's more clues here. I know that right now people are being asked, how do I have to keep all these content people? That answer could be yes or no, but I'm going to look at the data to tell me what I need to do next. When you have all these published dates next to content, it enables you in the macro to be able to drill in. So what I have, and obviously I've got it blurred out here, is I have the average days old of pieces of content by client. And it's instantly searchable by keyword. So now I can understand what keywords require fresher content. If they require fresher content, then I'm going to walk into that CFO's meeting and say, you know what? We need to update that content every 200 and so days for these very important categories. We need to keep all of our content team. Sorry, let's go find somewhere else to make cuts, but that's the wrong place. Whereas if you're a company that the content that's ranking in the top 10 is over 1,000 days old consistently, well, then you can have a different conversation based off of the data. But that's not good enough for us to live in the macro. We want everything in the micro. So I can drill in for the word software and say, okay, NerdWallet has this page. It was written on this date. It's 583 days old, and it ranks for 138 different keywords where I've gotten a conversion. I can look at all of those terms. Sorry, that's not where I got a conversion, 138 terms on the top 10. And I can look at all those terms, and I had to blur out the things that would give the industry away, but I can see how much I'm paying for those. So now I can start to say, hey, if I'm willing to spend $146,000 on words that this page is actually ranking for, this competitor page is ranking for, then maybe I should keep that team around because I need to protect that $146,000 in spend and that 283 conversions that we've gotten. Engrams are going to be one of the ways that you can unlock better understanding your customer. And I'm going to challenge you, those of you that have a little bit of time and money to grow right now, look at the search phrase that I'm showing here, wedding dress for women over 50. Stop and think about that. Here's the shopping results. By not showing faces, I bet you Google's going to get a lot more clicks. So I started clicking. I clicked on the top left one, 50? 50? I mean, well, damn. I don't know about 50. So then what did I do? Let's level this up, folks. We cannot accept, well, how am I supposed to do that? No, we fight back. We run it through an API that can tell us what they think the person's age is. So find an API that works with images that can give you information on the images. So if you're in shopping search, this is one of the ways you can make sure that your ads and the images in your ads better match the intent of the engrams around the word wedding dress, so you don't get those clicks that you don't want. This one was another one. Over 50? Well, this API thinks she's 26. That's pretty far from 50 if you ask me. These things are possible. But man, I don't want you guys paying for those clicks. People are losing their jobs right now. We need to make sure that we're using every dime we have to make sure we're getting in front of our customers to the best way possible. And this connects to how the C-level is thinking right now. Content personalization is where they are investing in the most as it relates to AI, machine learning, and big data. Let me leave you with this, because this is a little bit sad. I want to show you what a well-optimized silo feels like. I got this ad from Nordstrom Rack on Instagram. Instagram is a mobile platform. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. So, how good was this ad? Pretty damn good. I never have been to Nordstrom.com or Nordstrom Rack. These are my ashy ankles, and these are my actual shoes. They targeted me with the shoes that I actually own. Damn, they're good. Good job, Nordstrom. Somehow they must have got information from Facebook or Instagram or Strava or something. And they and Facebook and their targeting vendor and their social team put all that data together, and they're like, look at how good we are. Yeah, you're pretty good, but you've just optimized really well a silo because the page isn't even mobile friendly. How can you get that good at targeting a customer and serve them an ad on Instagram, which is a mobile platform, and land them on a page that I have to pinch and zoom on? Yeah. That's what an optimized silo feels like, but it's not over yet. They only have one in stock. One. I'm a 200-pound, 6'2" black man. I don't wear size 9s. I bet you that's statistically not typical for people of my height and size. So let's break this down. It's yet another silo. It's another silo. Somehow we got so good at the targeting that we're getting more people to click, which is costing us more money, to drive them to a page that does not work on their mobile devices, to only have them, after they go through all the pinching and zooming, to realize that you only have size 9 left for me to purchase, and I'm nowhere close to that. These are what we call brand dings. How long is your company going to continue to show me these kinds of things before I eventually learn that you're never going to get it right, so it's not worth my time? That's why this is a problem. It doesn't matter how good your analytics gets. It doesn't matter how good your PPC gets. How can we bring all these things together? Look at this simple search, gray sectional couch. Do you see a sectional here? I don't. Simple image recognition could tell us that. Save us the money. Wayfair's nailed it. Not gray. Postage stamps, sell me rubber stamps, come on. And guess what? In this down economy, do you think Google's going to run to your rescue and really start to show you all the places that your ad shouldn't be showing? Yeah, right. That ain't happening. That's why you got to build your own flywheel, because when you don't, and you don't look at the data at a granular level, you are literally still just wasting and spending money. So how's all this going to end for us? Well, I think of what would Dave Grohl do? I've been listening to a lot of Foo Fighters lately. Dave Grohl had a plan one day in Sweden. He was going to play a concert, and he jumped off the stage and broke his leg in the early parts of the concert. So just like all of us, he just got punched in the face. The breaking leg wasn't how he was going to go down. That wasn't part of his plan. So he got his team together and they rallied and they figured out how he was going to still play that exact concert. He went to the hospital, came back with the cast, and then picked up with his band and kept freaking playing after breaking his leg that day. And he rocked out. And that's what we are going to do as marketers. And we're going to start with our damn selves at Seer. And anybody who says, hey, please analyze my data and find this ways for me to help me make sure that I save a couple jobs, we will run the analyses for you if you trust us with your data. Because we are not going out taking punches in the mouth. We are going to do what Dave Grohl does. Yeah, our leg's a little broken. We're going to go get patched up, and we're going to come back, and we're going to rock out. Thank you so much for your time. I'm here for all the Q&A if we've got time for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. And we'll follow up in an email with information on how to receive one of those free analyses that Will just talked about. So the email address that you signed up with for the webinar will be what that goes to. So be on the lookout for that after this. We've got quite a few questions in the Q&A. Just a side note, my internet has been a little iffy. We do have Kaya Street on the line. If I go away, she will jump in and it'll be like nothing even happened. So just to start out, Rand, I wanna give the first question to you. So when we talked about those buckets that you have, so directly harmed, directly benefiting, indirectly affected, would you say there are more efficient channels or marketing focuses depending on which bucket you fall in?
Yes, but it's not universal. I think I saw the meme the other day, right? That internet marketers are basically just, our duct tape is, it depends. And that is certainly true here as well. So, if you're in, we can go back there real quick, but if you're in these different, let me share the screen. Yep, that one. Right. So if you're in this directly, there we go. Right, directly harmed, directly benefiting, indirectly affected. I think it is certainly true that for directly harmed, the raw pay for performance, pay for conversion channels, you probably either want to shift those to pay for pent-up future demand, meaning get people to come to you and give you their email address or like sign up for something in the future or get on your newsletter, subscribe to your blog, whatever it is, right? Like get them in your future audience. If you're directly benefiting, that's probably actually where you want to invest because those costs are way cheaper, right? The CPMs have fallen, the cost per click has fallen. And so you can take up some of that demand that the rest of the economy is left slacking. And if you're indirectly affected, I think you got to just figure out which channels keep working for your conversion and which channels you can use for pent-up demand. But almost everyone can take advantage of lower ad costs and higher online attention to invest in either organic or paid. It just depends. Stop the share here.
Awesome. Thanks, Rand. Yeah, Will, do you have anything you want to add on to that?
No, I think Rand pretty much nailed that. Rarely do I just go, no, I think he nailed it, but no, I think he nailed it.
So Will, got one coming for you. And Rand, actually, I think this is a good follow-up from you would be appreciated as well. So do you think that organizations without enough data on their own to be, let's say, like statistically significant can take advantage of broader consumer data to make educated guesses on what kinds of content, products, brand promises, et cetera? And if so, where would you suggest they go and look for that data?
Fish, go for it.
Yeah, sure. So let's see. again, depends on who you are, but there's almost always data available to you. I think one of the smartest things that you can do is if you are early stage or very small, you can look at data from bigger players and providers. One of the ones that I like a lot, many of you know that for the last couple of years, I've been working with this company, JumpShot, which provides clickstream data. They were shut down in January, which is tragic because anonymized aggregated data is everywhere now in the age of coronavirus. And if they had survived another 30 days, I think they would have been huge, just sucks. But SimilarWeb has kind of picked up that strain, and SimilarWeb provides some extraordinary data, much of it for free through free reports, and a good amount that you can get through their paid pro product, which is fairly expensive, but can be really worthwhile. You could subscribe for like a quarter or 6 months or something and get a lot of data that way. There's also industry reports and competitive data that you can get from a lot of trade aggregators. But to be honest, my favorite data, I think the data that's most useful to you very early on is what I talked about earlier with the surveys and interviews, right? That would be my baseline for everyone. Go survey a few hundred people, right? If you can capture a few hundred of those. If you're having a challenge reaching those, find the influential sources, get them to amplify for you, whether that's paid or organic through outreach, whatever. Joel Kletke, by the way, had an extraordinary tip on Twitter this morning that I absolutely loved, which was if you are having trouble breaking through to an influential source, a publication or a person, go subscribe to their newsletter or their blog, and then send a reply when you get their like email, right? So you go subscribe to the SparkToro blog, you get an email when we publish, you reply with like, oh, I love this. This is really great. Hey, could you help me out with blah, 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 blah. The guaranteed response, right? Like you have created a relationship. It's perfect. So that would be something I'd use on that survey side. And then you want to have some of those in-person interviews because that data is extraordinary. And then you could layer on SimilarWeb stuff as well.
Well, I mean, like the reason why I pointed to you on that one, Fish, is because like I know you've just dealt more with the JumpShot data set. So if I don't have my own, because I'm very like, I don't know. I tend to think like the hard part about broad-based data is take a non-HubSpot company and then that competes with HubSpot. You could be like, oh, I have this data that says in position 2, I can do this. And it's like HubSpot just does more with that second position because people like them more than they might like you. Amazon, like when you see them ranking, it's like, oh, they might be number 5, but like I know I'm gonna get my stuff in 2 days most of the time. And like this company, maybe not, it's more risky for me and I want it quickly. So like there's so many nuances that are playing with people at that time that's why I just personally just love to get my own, which is not what the person asked, right? If you can't get your own data, then I think that what Rand said is the best way.
Well, and this is, like, Will, you are hitting it exactly, right? If you're competing against big company in your space already and you're a smaller player, I think you have to find that emotional story that speaks to the small audience that you serve better, right? Like, hey, those big banks suck at joint checking accounts. They don't even use the word joint. They're not showing to people. They're not LGBTQ friendly and look at us like we are, like whatever it is, right? Those are great ways to identify like gap in the market, and I'm going to serve small audience that's better for me than HubSpot is, right? So you look for those people who are missing an experience, and then you sort of serve them.
You know what's interesting is Nora and I were chatting the other day, and I was saying all these people that are buying like boxed stuff, like a box of fish. We got some like weird seafood thing delivered, right? And it's
the
like
dog food shipping,
right.
Boxes, yeah.
Those companies might get a little overconfident right now, like, oh, look at us, like blah. And it's like, no, actually what you need to do is take that, survey the hell out of your customers, and then learn how to pivot your marketing in a world where I can just go get the fish now. You want to remind me that like you work with local farmers, that you support local farmers, that you do these things that I might really care about, because you better have a hook to bring me in later, because eventually convenience will win again. At some point, all that stuff I felt so great about and supporting local and buying my local thing is going to be like, yeah, but Acme or whatever shopping market's like right there, you know? So I believe like surveying these, if you're growing right now, surveying the hell out of your customers to understand what makes them tick, understanding, here you go, understanding what publications they follow, understanding what freaking what podcasts they listen to. You understand them at a deeper level, all of a sudden your marketing can attach to that, which is going to give you more staying power after all of this is hopefully over.
I gotta show you something. This is great. Let me find it. Aaron, go ahead with the next question, but I gotta find this thing from Kettle and Fire that was like brilliant. I'll show you in a sec.
Sure. So, and I want to throw one other option out there too. One of our coworkers, Teresa Lopez, just wrote a blog article on scraping Reddit and identifying 5 themes of audience concerns. And she also goes through and breaks it down specifically by these industries. But in general, people right now are looking for advice, current information, proactive preparation, stories, and future predictions. So we can also send this post out as a great way to kind of dive into some Reddit, either like niche audiences that really resonate with your brand, or just overarching advice on sort of the themes that people are diving into in their research right now.
Awesome. Okay, I got it for you. All right, so this is, share screen, this screen. So this is from this website. I'll show you the website first, Kettle and Fire. They make bone broth in Austin, Texas. I use them as an example in SparkToro. And they do this really cool thing. They've changed their messaging, right? So they're like, stock up so you're prepared at home, right? Blah, blah, blah. But check out what happens when you buy from them. So I bought on mobile. I ordered a bunch of stock because Geraldine and I really liked it. So they have this survey that you get right after you check out. And it says, how did you hear about us? Which blog publication, like if you click which blog publication, which health influencer, like so smart. Ask right at that time, like after the conversion's done, but before they've left, this Typeform survey pops over and they just get extraordinary data from this. And, you know, obviously SparkToro can help with a bunch of this stuff too, but it was just so smart to me that they were collecting this data and then using it for their future marketing, because they can really get inside the mind of their audience. Even if you don't go pitch these, right? Even if you just like pay attention to the same sources your audience pays attention to, you understand your customers and what they're like getting in their world, what's being talked about, in a way that your competitors don't. This is something I think small businesses can do so much better than big ones.
Oh my God. So Fish, one of our clients was like, if everybody has the same information and keeps throwing it into Facebook's algorithm for like lookalike audiences or whatever, at some point, if I don't find a new data sort to add in to my data to get very different lookalike audiences, we're all kind of competing with each other for basically the same thing. Okay, so great. I sell shoes. I need to know size. I need to know gender. Great. I'm going to upload that into Facebook for lookalike audiences. And sure, there will be some nuances there. But at some point, every shoe seller is selling the same stuff. Whereas if you have another data set that you're also layering in next to those things, Facebook's going to be much more different and more efficient for you than everybody who's like, oh, female, size 6, upload, lookalike, everybody, right? So yeah, no, the stuff you're talking about there, I never thought about that until a client said it to me once, like, I like your data because I can take these people also ask questions or these other things and load them into this other thing and create very different audiences than my competitors can. And I was like, let me take a note on that. Thank you. Yeah. Super smart. Super smart.
All right, we're gonna have to go some lightning round for this Q&A.
All right. Sorry.
Sounds good. Here's a pretty quick one. Any survey platforms you recommend?
I have used Typeform because I saw about 20% more completions on it than when I used SurveyMonkey. That being said, SurveyMonkey has gotten better, and Typeform, there's a few things that you can't do on the analysis side. So I generally switch between Google Forms for really like cheap, free, like easy stuff to plug in. SurveyMonkey for more complex big picture stuff, and then Typeform for like really, really friendly, small number of questions, great on mobile.
And none for me. Teresa would be the one to know all that. We can just send it out in the notes from whatever she would recommend.
Awesome. Sounds good. And we got about 15 minutes left, so we have a decent amount of time. I really like this one. It's not actually a question, but I'm going to turn it into one. So Will's presentation makes me think that in order to be a smart PPC specialist, you've got to have a very good basic of SEO and knowledge about search intent, right? So, Will, can you talk a little bit about how you've kind of merged those at Seer and in the work that you've been doing?
I've tried. I mean, I lead by example. So I went and got my AdWords cert, right? Like I was like, I'm going to go and get AdWords certified. Like if I expect my PPC team to do it, you know?
How valuable did you find it?
It grounded me in shit. There was stuff like, so Rand, after I took the AdWords cert, I was like, wait, you get every search term that you spent money on in AdWords? Just like, because honestly, Rand, like our whole industry went ape shit when Not Provided happened. Literally, people went nuts trying to find ways to bring it back and to come up with adjustments. And nobody on paid was ever like, guys, we have it all. Like we know at least what the words were that people were showing up for. You got to pay for it. But if you got paid, like we got it. I never heard that. And I spent 2 years hearing people talking about Not Provided. So it was like basic things that were inside of AdWords. And I was like, holy crap. Like, how did I not know this? But for me, I think the bigger thing is, and Nora sent me an article a while back from somebody in the nonprofit space around power to the generalist. Yeah. In down economies, so like we have different divisions that are getting hit in different ways. Some are growing, some are slowing down. The people that stay in their silo only, it's like, well, too late, like you didn't learn these things, so therefore I can't transfer those skills over to this division that's growing because it's too late. So yeah. I think the big thing is, in general, to be a good marketer, understanding how different platforms work, help you to figure out the connective tissue between them, which I think is critical. You don't want me running your paid, but you want me to understand what paid data looks like so I can figure out how to do all my other jobs better. Mm-hmm. And if push comes to shove, I can do paid if that's what's growing, right? Because I can get through it because I've done the work to learn about it. So I'm a big believer in these kind of markets and this kind of times, being a little bit general, knowing how to write a good piece of content, optimize that content, and then throw it into an audience for Facebook to get some visibility to it. And then to know how to analyze your own data to figure out how to tweak it to make it better versus having like 4 different people, a Facebook person and an analytics person and an SEO person. I think it's good. Yeah. I think it's valuable, especially at these times. It's job security. Like you get to be like, oh, wait, Erin did it. Erin was on marketing and she was like, I used to be like this baller in Google Analytics. Well, she didn't say that, of course, but she's like, I used to be this baller in like Google Analytics. Like if you need help over there, like sign me up. And it's all of a sudden like, yeah, of course I would. Right. So I think that that's super important for people to try to think for future proofing their own risk in their careers. Sometimes it's helpful to try to be general enough that you can shift between 2 different areas that the companies you might want to work at may be likely to have roles for.
Rand, anything you want to add on there?
No, I'm good. Yeah, thank you.
And that reminds me of a pretty good book I read recently called Range: Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World by David Epstein. Pretty good one for anyone out there wanting to dig in a little bit more on generalists. Cool. So next one we got here. How much of your marketing should be retention based with current clients right now and customers versus acquisition? So I'll open that up to either of you to start with.
I take a little bit of the opposite view of how a lot of folks think, which is I think there's a ton of focus on retaining customers right now. And that's not wrong. I don't think that's a bad thing. But I think empathy demands that we recognize that some people are affected very, very differently than others, right? So I showed how Zoom is, like up 1,000%, 2,000%, right? And Gumroad's up and Shopify's up. But Carnival Cruises they cannot afford to pay you right now, right? They don't have the budget for it. Your local restaurateur does not have the budget for it, right? Your local retail shop doesn't have the budget. So recognize that if you have customers, if you have a diverse set of customers, some of them are going to be massively affected, and spending all your energy focusing on retaining the whatever 20 or 30 or 40% of your customers who are like, I have no money, nothing's coming in, I'm shut down for months and probably will be affected for years. Trying to get them to keep paying you the same amount is a lost cause. Instead, I would focus on recognizing who are our best customers who are surviving and thriving in this environment. Let's go find more people like them that we can help, right? The people who are, I don't want to say easy to retain, but easier to retain, let's use them as a specific customer cohort now. Go identify more people like them, go find the sources of influence and attention that reach them, go do marketing in those places. Maybe that's search, maybe it's social, maybe it's paid, whatever it is, but that's where Casey and I are focusing our effort for SparkToro, right? We basically recognize like, oh, we got punched in the mouth. Like half of the customers we thought we could get for SparkToro, they're never going to sign up, right? They just don't have budget approval anymore. All their corporate cards have been pulled. They can't go spend anymore. Let's go find the industries and people who are affected positively, right? Whose demand is growing and they have to go get more online attention. We're going to go market to them through the next, 3 to 6 months.
You know what, Fish, I wanted to disagree with you on that when you started off. But like, as usual, I was like, yeah, oh shit, dude's got a point. Like, it makes a lot of sense. You're right. I mean, I think that's the saddest part. Like outside of growing the business, because who gives a shit, right? It's like, it's more like when you're across from a client and they're like, I wish I could continue to work with you. It's just like gut wrenching when someone's like, I love you, but there's literally like, so either I can fire that person right there and keep your contract, or I can keep that person's job. You're like, I get it.
I'd be like, I'd fire me too, right? Like cut my budget, come back in the future. So I don't know if you saw this, but Buffer did a really smart thing around this. They basically saw that a ton of their customers couldn't afford to pay them. And they were like, no, if you're having trouble paying, here's 3 months free. Stick with us, your same plan. We're doing good anyway. Like we're growing. Here's 3 months for free. We can afford it. You just take it. You don't like forgiveness. I think that's so awesome. And look, if I'm a Buffer customer, I'm not going to complain that someone who's hard hit is getting it for free and I'm not, or what, like, screw that, right? These are extraordinary times. And so extraordinary measures have to get taken. And I think, I was on the Moz board call, was that a couple weeks ago? And Brad Feld, one of the investors in Moz, suggested that Moz do something which a bunch of software as a service companies have been doing, which is essentially to say, hey, right now, like if you have a contract with us and it's like a long-term big contract, we can do a very large prepayment discount. If you call us and are basically like, hey, we're worried about if we can afford or if we can re-up, just be like, okay, cool, got it. If you want to pay whatever, 15%, 20%, 30% of the normal price, we'll grant your contract for the next quarter, next 6 months, next year, whatever, so you can stick with us. And I was like, oh yeah, I get it, right? That makes sense. It's good for the business now. It saves the customer a bunch of money. The people who really need it can still get it. Like it's sort of and it doesn't create this problem of, I think part of, the sales team at a lot of SaaS companies are like, yeah, you can, don't worry about paying us right now. You can pay us in 90 days. And then in 90 days, it's like, oh man, our cash collections looks crazy and we're not getting any of those dollars. So, yeah.
That's really nice, man. I love those guys.
Yep, we are happy Buffer users over here at Seer as well. So Will, this one's kind of specific to the joint bank account example that you gave. How do you think they're ranked first? And I think this can kind of go back into the Ngram analysis and things of that nature, but how do you think they're ranked first if there's no mention of the actual word joint in their content?
Got it. So in this world, we are talking about paid and organic. So we have to be clear. All those people were paying money to get those clicks, which is why it's really frustrating, because it's like, why pay to drive somebody to a page where you don't even mention the word and you don't even talk to them in their own language? The technology is too good to allow that to continue to happen. However, what I will say is Simple is probably talking to people in the right way, where if they just put the word join, see, this is the power of SEO. Oh my God. It's like, you guys nailed it, right? You've got the right words. You're going to have longer engagement on the page because it's actually what people are looking for. You use together and them and us. And oh, let me look at how you can protect your significant other from seeing that you just bought them a gift at a place. Like, they have all that functionality built in the app, but they keep calling it shared accounts instead of joint, which means they're missing out on probably millions of dollars in account opens. And because they're joint accounts, they're probably larger account opens. That's another reason why people should not be bidding for the word checking account. God damn it, it's like so fucking basic. If you take the fucking engrams and split them out and you get your shit straight, you start being like, wait, these types of customers end up opening accounts with a lot more money. Therefore, I should separate them because that word drives a different type of customer, so I can bid and rebid and retarget them differently than the average checking account customer. But alas, this is why we have jobs, right? But yeah, if I was Simple, I would just add the word joint all over the page, joint/shared, and then they would probably rank in the top 10 for it.
So can I ask a question? If the question, Aaron, was why does Google Ads show these non-relevant people who don't even mention joint, who don't mention shared, who don't have, So my guess is it's two things, right? They're paying more money, and also their other ads perform well, right? So like that, whatever, Chase Bank or whatever, and Google combines it all. They're kind of like, oh, Chase, you do well in bank advertising, so we're going to push you to the top, which basically, like, for Simple is a message of, oh, so if I expand my ads and I do better micro targeting across every kind, I am also going to rise in the paid search rankings. Is that what you've seen, Will?
So I was with you up until the point on Simple. So are you saying that Simple, if they see Citibank at the top, that Simple believes they will be rewarded by making the small tweaks to try to outrank them in the paid results?
No, so basically Simple could see, oh, whatever, Chase or Citibank is up top. They're probably up top because they're so big. They have such a huge spend with Google across the board, and their ads tend to perform well. Maybe in this joint checking case, they don't perform well, but they tend to perform well, so Google's putting them up there. So if we, Simple, start expanding our ad buy and having higher performance in each micro segment, we too will rise up and be able to compete with Chase and Citibank. Is that not true?
So the problem is with quality score and the way that it's managed, as I understand it, right? So part of it is how much you're willing to pay. So as a result, if Citibank is willing to pay like $15 a click because they just have more money than God, and Simple's got to be a little more smart about it, they might go, well, if I tap out at $7 or $8 per click, even though they have a higher quality score because they're better connected with what people want, the willingness to pay so much, that's what Google tries to say, is Google says, hey, if you want to show up for this word, man, be my guest, but we're going to make you pay through the nose for it. The problem is when we go into a world of smart bidding where they go, hey, just put in the word checking account and all of our machine learning will do all the smart matching and whatnot. It's like, wait a second. Like, dude, one of the reports that we run for clients is we look at how many unique search terms landed on one PPC page. Holy shit, bro. I saw a client who had $2.2 million spent and 52,000 unique words going to one PPC landing page. And that's not atypical. But it's not a report that Google gives you, and it's not a report you can get out of any tool that I know. And then the kicker is when you join the PPC and SEO data, Rand, you then just go, wait, you already ranked number 3 for it. So it's all sitting right there in my singular view. I can go, okay, you got all these words, these 50,000 words going to this one landing page and paid, but you're ranking in the top 10 for 5,000 of them with like 18 different pages. So like you need to stop driving the traffic to the page that doesn't answer the question. You've already earned the right over here. But that shit just doesn't exist. So therefore, that's why we do what we do. Like that's what we try to do is find those inefficiencies.
So well.
Yeah. So anyway.
Cool.
Ah,
So that
why
is
don't we
a
just
good.
stay on and just riff? It's been a while, Rand. I haven't seen you at any
I
conference or
know,
anything
I
that we were
know. We
supposed to
gotta
see
we
each
gotta
other
hang
at.
out.
I